We are in mid of July and having fantastic growing weather. And joining us today is Mark Grunmeyer from Latham Seed. Hey, Mark, thanks for stopping by for another fantastic week in our From the Field conversation.
Yeah, hi there, Liz.
So, a lot of things have been going on. Not a lot of rain, which is fantastic, just a little bit here and there. But that doesn't mean that nothing's happening out in the fields. We're seeing lots of growth, both for the corn and the beans. But there's some other things taking place out there in those fields, too. What are we going to talk about this week, Mark?
Well, I think, Liz, in general, you're right. The crops out there are looking fantastic, and, we've had some spotty rains and decent weather, so things are looking very, very good out there right now. But the one thing I want to caution people, even though crops are looking good, they still really need to be out there because this is kind of a crucial time. It's what we call mid-season scouting time. It's right at tasseling on a lot of corn fields, getting towards pod formation on the soybean fields. And it's really, really important to be out there looking for different insects and diseases that can be very evident this time because any kind of stress can greatly enhance the likelihood of opportunistic insects that feed upon those plants, things like corn aphids, European corn borer, armyworm in the corn fields, and then in soybeans, we could see soybean aphids and some other insects too that might be popping up.
Well, let's expand a little bit about that, Mark. Let's start first, I guess, maybe with corn aphids. And what are we seeing on the plants, or what are we seeing in the fields for our farmers? What do they need to be aware of?
Yeah, the thing they should be looking for is, and there's actually several different species of corn aphids that can colonize a corn plant. And really, it doesn't really matter which species you have. In the long run, basically any corn aphid out there is sucking the nutrients out of the corn plant, and especially research in South Dakota would suggest that if you got 10% of your corn plants that are being colonized by aphids, if your cornfield is at V10 or just before tasseling, they can significantly impact yield. Damage from the corn aphids can interfere with pollination, and they can result in barren corn ears at harvest. And then in addition to that, damaged kernels are susceptible to infection by fungi that produce aflatoxin and fumonicism. For all these reasons, corn leaf aphids pose a multi-level threat to corn growers, and spraying may be considered if even just 7% of the corn plants are covered by aphids.
Well, another object that we're fighting or talking about, you even mentioned, was the corn borer pressure. I thought we were out of the woods on that. Is that not the case for us so far this year?
Well, not necessarily, and a lot depends on what traits the farmers out there are using. One reason corn borers can be so damaging is because we see different types of damage from either the first or the second generation corn borers. Early in the season, farmers can obtain maybe an 80% kill rate with a foliar applied insecticide. But at this point in the season, right around tasseling, those borers have burrowed into the stalk, and where an insecticide can't even reach them, and so they're no longer effective.
Okay, so what is it we have to do, Mark? Well, how can we combat this and take care of things either now or going forward?
Well, the big thing there, Liz, is just taking field notes, and they can really help farmers develop a harvest plan especially. And they're going to want to keep a close eye on stalks that have been damaged because those will be prone to stalk lodging, to ear drop, and even to repeat infestations. Field notes will help these farmers choose seed also for the 2016 planting. So some farmers, in an attempt to lower their input costs for 2015, they opted to plant, maybe corn hybrids with fewer traits, maybe no traits at all. And they may need a different trait package next season to take care of pressures they're seeing now in their fields. With so many trait packages available, seed selection isn't as easy as it used to be. And that's why I like to talk with farmers about their needs as well as their soil types and farming practices before I make seed recommendations.
So really they need to start with scouting their fields and then talking to either you or another representative to see what works best in their field going forward so we can have an as acceptable 2015 as possible, but an even better 2016 and beyond.
Yeah, really. And you're out there, and you're going to want to harvest the most infested fields or the most damaged fields first. I mean, that's obvious, and get them in the bin, and then go on to your fields that don't show any kind of infestation. And then, like you said, in 2016, keep track of those 2015 notes and make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into when it comes time to select the seed and select the traits that you want.
Well, Mark, another thing that you just touched on, I mean, it's only the middle of July, but it doesn't seem possible. We're already talking about the corn tasseling, and the detasselers are out there working. So I want to mention to everyone, make sure and be farm safe all year through. It's not just a spring planting or fall harvest type thing. It's an all season through. And here it is, middle of July, and we're getting ready to harvest.
Yeah, it is one of those things, and whether you're out there looking in fields now, obviously stay hydrated. Know what your limits are from your own personal standpoint when you're out there walking and scouting fields, especially when you get in the cornfields with the corn being so tall right now, and even the soybean fields. I've seen more people out walking soybean fields actually, and when I say walking, they're out there pulling weeds or chopping out weeds in soybean fields this year than I probably have in the previous 5 years, and a lot of that's due to glyphosate tolerant weeds that we've got out there. More and more farmers are getting back to the old school of killing weeds, and that's by hand. And so when you're out there doing those things, Liz, you're right. I mean, safety is really important, and you just got to be ever watchful and making sure that they're doing the right thing.
Well, Mark, before I let you go this week, anything else that you want to add for our listeners and our farmers?
Well, I think just again, Liz, walking fields now, scouting fields, noting where there's both weed and insect pressure is going to help these farmers determine, a harvest plan now, and then as well as in the future for seed selections. Field notes from 2015 are going to help those farmers determine whether they need to change modes of action when they're making 2016 seed decisions. And, just always remember that there's information available, whether it be on our website, www.lathamseeds.com, or on our blog, which is thefieldposition.com. And if they have any questions, they can always call the Latham office at 1-877-GO-LATHAM.
All right. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Mark Grunmeyer from Latham Seeds. We'll talk to you again next week, Mark.
Thanks very much, Liz, for all that you do for agriculture in Northeast Iowa.